Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he floated in the maintenance shaft deep inside the New Frontier mining station. The cramped space smelled of hot metal and recycled air. He had been working on the communication array for 3 hours, and his back was starting to ache from the awkward position. Just a simple repair job, he muttered to himself, adjusting his grip on the plasma torch. Replace a few burnt circuits. Check the power couplings, and I'll be done before lunch. The New Frontier station hung in the darkness of space, far from Earth in the Kepler 442 system. It was humanity's most distant outpost, a lonely collection of metal modules and mining equipment that pulled rare minerals from the asteroid belt. Only 43 people lived on the station, and most days nothing exciting happened at all. Jake was 28 years old and had been working as a communications technician for 5 years. He was good at his job, maybe too good. His confidence sometimes got him into trouble, but he always managed to fix whatever went wrong. Today felt like any other day. "Morrison, how's it going in there?" The voice crackled through his headset. It was Ben Carter, the chief engineer. Ben was a practical man in his 40s who had seen every kind of technical problem the station could throw at him. "Almost done, Ben," Jake replied, carefully welding a new circuit board into place. "The power surge from last week fried more components than we thought, but nothing I can't handle." "Good. Commander Grant wants the long-range communications back online as soon as possible. We've got a supply shipment coming in next month, and we need to confirm the delivery schedule." Jake nodded, even though Ben couldn't see him. Lisa Grant was the station commander, a tough woman who had served in the Titan Wars. She ran the station like a military operation, which made sense since she used to be a military officer. Everyone respected her, and nobody wanted to disappoint. The plasma torch hissed as Jake finished the last connection. He turned off the tool and examined his work. The new circuits looked perfect, clean and properly aligned. He felt proud of the job he had done. "Okay, Ben, I'm ready to power up the system. Can you give me a boost from the main reactor?" "Roger." That, increasing power to communications array in 3, 2, 1. Jake watched the status lights on his handheld scanner as power flowed through the repaired circuits. Green lights appeared one by one, showing that each system was coming online. Everything looked normal until he reached the final connection. A brilliant flash of light filled the maintenance shaft. Jake's scanner screamed with warning alarms as electricity arced across the circuit boards. The power surge was massive, far stronger than anything the system was designed to handle. "What the hell?" Jake shouted, pulling his hands away from the sparking electronics. The entire array was overloading, and he could smell burning plastic. "Jake, what's happening?" Ben's voice was urgent. "I'm reading massive power fluctuations in your section." "I don't know. Something's wrong with the power coupling. The system is drawing way more energy than it should." Jake scrambled to reach the emergency shutdown switch, but the cramped space made it difficult to move quickly. Sparks continued to fly from the damaged circuits, and the warning alarms got louder. On the station's bridge, Lisa Grant looked up from her morning reports as emergency lights began flashing. Her coffee mug sat forgotten on the desk as she focused on the warning displays. "Commander, we have a problem," called out the duty officer. "The communications array is malfunctioning. It's broadcasting on all frequencies." Lisa moved quickly to the communications console. The screen showed a chaotic mess of signals going out in every direction. But what made her blood run cold was a message being transmitted. "Under heavy assault, casualties mounting, requesting immediate military assistance. Repeat, New Frontier Station under attack by unknown hostile forces. Need immediate backup." "What?" Lisa stared at the screen in horror. "That's not our message. We're not under attack." The duty officer's face was pale. "Commander, the system is broadcasting an automated distress signal. It must have been triggered by the power surge. The message is going out on the military emergency channel." Lisa's mind raced. The military emergency channel was reserved for genuine combat situations. Any distress signal on that frequency would trigger an immediate response from Earth's defense forces. And the message being broadcast made it sound like they were fighting for their lives against alien invaders. "Can we shut it down?" "We're trying. But the system isn't responding to our commands. The power surge seems to have locked it into emergency mode." In the maintenance shaft, Jake finally reached the emergency switch and slammed it down. The sparking stopped, but the damage was already done. The communication array was still powered, still broadcasting its false message into space. "Ben, I've got the local power cut, but the main array is still active. Something's wrong with the emergency protocols." "I'm on my way," Ben replied. "Stay where you are, and don't touch anything else." Ben Carter ran through the station corridors, his engineering toolkit bouncing against his hip. He had worked on starships and space stations for 20 years, but he had never seen a malfunction like this. When he reached the communications section, he found Jake crawling out of the maintenance shaft, his face covered in soot. "What happened in there?" Ben asked, already pulling up diagnostic information on his tablet. "I don't know. The power coupling was fine when I installed it. Then when you boosted the power, everything went crazy." Ben studied the readings on his tablet. His expression grew more serious as he understood what had happened. "Jake, this is bad. The system defaulted to emergency mode when it detected the power surge. It's interpreting the malfunction as battle damage. Can you fix it?" "I'm trying, but the automated systems are fighting me. The emergency protocols are designed to keep broadcasting even if the station is being destroyed. That's what they're doing now." On the bridge, Lisa watched the tactical display with growing alarm. The distress signal was being boosted by a solar flare from the system's star. Instead of reaching just the nearby sectors, the message was being carried across multiple star systems. By now, it would have reached Earth's monitoring stations. "How long has the signal been broadcasting?" she asked. 17 minutes and counting, Commander." Lisa closed her eyes for a moment, trying to calculate the implications. A distress signal claiming they were under attack by unknown aliens would trigger the highest level of military response. Earth's defense forces would mobilize everything they had. "Keep trying to shut it down," she ordered. "And get me a direct line to Earth Command. We need to explain what happened before they do something we'll all regret." But even as she spoke, Lisa knew it was probably too late. The message was already racing through space at the speed of light, and there was no way to catch it. Somewhere out there, military commanders were reading reports about humanity's first alien invasion. Jake Morrison's simple repair job had just become the most expensive mistake in human history. The new frontier station continued its lonely orbit around the distant star, its communications array faithfully broadcasting a lie that would change the course of galactic history. And in the depths of space, the largest military fleet humanity had ever assembled was already beginning to move. Admiral Kate Sullivan sat in her command chair on Luna Command, watching the morning reports scroll across her display. At 48 years old, she had spent half her life in the military, rising through the ranks during the Titan Wars and the Mars Rebellion. She was known for making quick decisions and standing by them, no matter how difficult they became. The coffee in her mug had gone cold an hour ago, but she hardly noticed. Running Earth's defense forces meant constant vigilance, and she had learned to function on little sleep and endless caffeine. Today had started like any other day, with routine patrol reports and supply requisitions. Then the alert came in. "Admiral," called out Lieutenant Peterson from the communications station. We're receiving a priority emergency signal from the outer colonies. Kate looked up from her reports. Priority emergency signals were rare, and they usually meant serious trouble. Put it through. The main screen flickered to life, showing a text message that made Kate's blood run cold. The words appeared in stark white letters against a black background. Under heavy assault, casualties mounting, requesting immediate military assistance. Repeat, new frontier station under attack by unknown hostile forces. Need immediate backup. The bridge fell silent. Every officer on duty turned to stare at the screen. Kate read the message 3 times, her mind racing through the implications. Where is this coming from? She asked. New frontier station in the Kepler 442 system, Peterson replied. It's our most distant outpost, about 37 light-years from Earth. Kate knew the station. It was a small mining operation with fewer than 50 people, located at the very edge of human space. If something had attacked it, the attackers would have had to travel through several star systems without being detected. Are we getting any other signals from the area? No, Admiral. Just this one transmission, but it's being repeated continuously. The signal is unusually strong, probably boosted by solar activity. Kate stood up and walked to the tactical display. The Kepler 442 system appeared as a small dot on the edge of the map, surrounded by unexplored space. Beyond it lay the vast unknown, potentially filled with hostile alien civilizations. Unknown hostile forces, she repeated quietly. This could be first contact. The bridge crew exchanged nervous glances. Humanity had been searching for alien life for decades, but most people had assumed first contact would be peaceful. The idea of hostile aliens attacking a human outpost was the stuff of nightmares. Get me Captain Hayes on the USS Defiant, Kate ordered, and patch me through to Earth Command. We need to mobilize immediately. Ryan Hayes was eating breakfast in his quarters when the call came in. At 39 years old, he was one of the youngest ship captains in the fleet, but his tactical skills were legendary. He had commanded the USS Defiant for 3 years, leading successful missions against pirates and smugglers throughout the outer colonies. Captain Hayes here, he answered, setting down his fork. Ryan, this is Admiral Sullivan. We have a situation. How quickly can you get the Defiant ready for combat operations? Hayes felt his pulse quicken. Admiral Sullivan didn't ask casual questions. We can be ready in 30 minutes, Admiral. What's the situation? Possible alien attack on New Frontier. Station. I need you to take the advanced scout group and investigate. Full combat readiness. Hayes was already moving toward his uniform closet. Understood, Admiral. What size force are we talking about? Everything we have, Captain. This might be the big one. Within minutes, the USS Defiant was buzzing with activity. Hayes reached the bridge as his crew prepared for departure. The ship's engines hummed to life, and weapon systems came online with mechanical precision. Navigator, plot a course for the Kepler 442 system, Hayes ordered. Engineering, I want. Maximum speed. Communications. Try to raise New Frontier Station on all frequencies. His communications officer, a young woman named Sarah Kim, worked frantically at her console. No response, Captain. The only signal we're getting is the automated distress call. Hayes nodded grimly. If the station's crew couldn't respond to hails, they were either dead or fighting for their lives. Either way, time was running out. Back on Luna Command, Admiral Sullivan was coordinating the largest military mobilization in human history. Her staff worked around the clock, pulling ships from patrol duties and reserve status. The scale of the response was unprecedented. Commander Alex Turner, the intelligence officer, approached her with a worried expression. Alex was 33 years old and had spent his career analyzing potential threats to human space. He was cautious by nature, preferring to gather all available information before making recommendations. "Admiral, I've been analyzing the situation," he said. "Something doesn't add up." "What do you mean?" "The signal from New Frontier is very specific. It mentions casualties and ongoing combat, but we have no other indicators of alien activity in that region. No ships detected, no energy signatures, nothing." Sullivan turned to face him. "Are you suggesting the signal is fake?" "I'm suggesting we should consider all possibilities. The signal could be genuine, or it could be a trap. We might be walking into an ambush." Sullivan considered this for a moment. Turner was right to be cautious, but the potential consequences of ignoring a genuine distress call were too severe. If humans were being killed by hostile aliens, every minute of delay could mean more lives lost. "I understand your concerns, Alex, but we can't take the risk. If this is real, New Frontier needs our help now. If it's a trap, we'll deal with it when we get there." Turner nodded reluctantly. "Yes, Admiral. How large a force are you planning to deploy?" Sullivan looked at the tactical display, where hundreds of ship icons were beginning to move toward the rally point. "All of it, Commander. Every ship we have." Turner's eyes widened. "Admiral, that's 847 vessels. Are you sure that's necessary? If we're facing an unknown alien threat, I want them to know exactly what they're dealing with. Humanity doesn't back down from a fight, and we don't leave our people behind." Across human space, the response was swift and overwhelming. Battlecruisers left their patrol routes, dreadnoughts powered up their massive engines, and support ships loaded supplies for extended combat operations. The entire Terran defense fleet was mobilizing for war. On the bridge of the USS Defiant, Captain Hayes watched the fleet assembly with awe. He had never seen so many ships moving together. The sight was both inspiring and terrifying. "Captain," his navigator reported, "we're receiving coordination signals from over 800 vessels. This is the largest fleet movement in recorded history." Hayes nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. As the advanced scout, he would be the first to encounter whatever had attacked New Frontier Station. The thought both excited and worried him. "All ships, this is Admiral Sullivan," came the voice over the communication system. "We are responding to an attack on human territory by unknown hostile forces. This may be humanity's first interstellar war. Stay alert, follow your orders, and bring our people home." The fleet moved through space like a river of metal and fire, carrying humanity's hopes and fears toward the distant stars. None of them knew they were responding to a maintenance accident that had gone horribly wrong. All they knew was that humans were in danger, and the entire might of Earth's military was racing to help them dot in the depths of space. Sensors belonging to various alien species detected the massive fleet movement. Long-range telescopes focused on the unprecedented gathering of human warships. Across the galaxy, the news began to spread. The creatures from the Deathworld called Earth were finally showing their true strength. High Observer Kethvash stood in the center of the monitoring chamber, his 6 eyes focused on the holographic display that showed the entire galaxy. The Zephyrian was old by his species standards, equivalent to 67 human years, and his pale blue skin showed the silver markings of wisdom and experience. He had spent most of his life studying the dangerous species that lived throughout the galaxy, but none worried him more than the creatures from the planet they called Earth. "The readings cannot be correct," he said, his voice carrying the musical tones typical of his people. "Show me the data again." Scout leader Nix Terra moved gracefully to the control panel, her younger features showing concern. At the equivalent of 31 human years, she was considered one of the best military analysts in the Zephyrian fleet. Her job was to monitor potentially hostile species and warn the Council of any threats. "The sensors are functioning perfectly." High Observer, she said, manipulating the holographic controls. 847 human warships are moving toward the Kepler 442 system. This represents their entire military fleet. Kethvash felt a chill run through his body. The Zephyrians had been watching humanity for decades, ever since. Their first deep space missions had detected radio signals from Earth. What they had learned had filled them with terror. Earth was what the galactic community called a Deathworld. The planet was incredibly hostile to life, with violent weather, dangerous creatures, and constant natural disasters. Most species that evolved on such worlds became extinct within a few thousand years. But humans had not only survived, they had thrived and become the dominant species on their planet. "Have they detected our observation posts?" Kethvash asked. "No, High Observer. Our ships are too far away, and we have maintained complete communication silence. The humans do not know we exist." This was even more troubling. If the humans were mobilizing their entire fleet without knowing about the Zephyrians, it meant they had detected some other threat. Or worse, they were beginning their expansion into galactic space. "What is their destination?" Kethvash asked, though he already feared the answer. "They are heading toward their most distant outpost," Nixterra replied. "A small mining station with fewer than 50 inhabitants. Our intelligence suggests it is primarily used for resource extraction." Research Prime Olan Meyer entered the chamber, his arms full of data tablets. As the Zephyrian equivalent of 45 human years, he was the leading expert on human behavior and psychology. His research had painted a terrifying picture of humanity's potential. "High Observer, I have completed my analysis of the human fleet movement," he said, setting down his tablets. "The implications are worse than we thought." "Explain," Kethvash said. "The humans have mobilized their entire military force to protect a single small outpost. This demonstrates several terrifying characteristics. First, they value every human life, no matter how few. Second, they are willing to use overwhelming force to protect their people. Third, they can mobilize their entire fleet in less than 6 hours." Kethvash absorbed this information with growing dread. The Zephyrians were a peaceful species that had avoided conflict for thousands of years. Their military was designed for defense only, and they had never faced an enemy as aggressive as humanity appeared to be. "What do we know about human military capabilities?" he asked. Ola and Meyer picked up one of his tablets. "Our long-range observations show that human warships are heavily armed and extremely fast. They use nuclear weapons as standard armament, and their largest ships carry enough firepower to destroy entire planets. But what makes them truly dangerous is their tactical thinking." "How so?" "Humans are the only species we have observed that actively studies warfare. They have entire schools dedicated to military strategy, and they constantly develop new ways to fight. Their history is filled with conflicts, and each war has made them more effective at combat." Nixterra added her own observations. "High Observer, human ships are also remarkably well designed for long-distance operations. They can travel farther and faster than most species, and they carry enough supplies to fight extended campaigns. This fleet movement proves they can project power across vast distances." Kethvash walked to the star map, studying the location of the human fleet. "If they are moving toward their outer colonies, what does that suggest about their intentions?" "It could mean they are preparing to expand their territory," Olan Meyer said. "The mining station they are protecting could be the first step in claiming that entire star system. From there, they could continue expanding outward. Or," Nixterra added, "they could be responding to a threat we have not detected. Humans are known for their paranoia and aggressive defensive reactions. They might be mobilizing against an enemy we cannot see." This possibility was almost as frightening as human expansion. If there was a threat in the galaxy that the Zephyrians had not detected, but the humans had. It meant human sensor technology was far more advanced than anyone had realized. What should we do? Kefbash asked. We must inform the council immediately. Alon Meyer said. They need to know that humanity is beginning to show its true military strength. The time for passive observation may be ending. I recommend we begin defensive preparations, Ixtera added. If the humans are planning expansion, we need to be ready to protect our colonies. Kefbash nodded slowly. The Zephyrians had always known this day would come. Their scientists had calculated that any species surviving on a death world would eventually become a galactic threat. They had hoped it would take humans longer to develop interstellar military capabilities, but that hope was now gone. Send a message to all Zephyrian colonies, he ordered. Tell them to increase security measures and prepare for possible evacuation, and contact the Galactic Monitoring Network. Other species need to know what is happening. As the orders were transmitted across Zephyrian space, similar scenes were playing out on dozens of other worlds. The massive human fleet movement was being detected by every major species in the galaxy. Long-range sensors focused on the unprecedented gathering of warships, and xenobiologists scrambled to understand what it meant. The Crotheri, a militaristic species that had been considering attacks on human colonies, immediately canceled their plans. Their war leaders looked at the size of the human fleet and realized they had severely underestimated humanity's military strength. The Melani, a trading species that had been negotiating with human merchants, suddenly found themselves much more eager to establish formal diplomatic relations. If humanity possessed such military might, they would be valuable allies and dangerous enemies. The Void Singers, an ancient species that rarely paid attention to younger civilizations, began monitoring human communications for the first time in centuries. Any species that could mobilize such a large fleet so quickly deserved their attention. On the bridge of a Zephyrian observation ship, Captain Yulneth watched the human fleet through long-range sensors. The ships moved with precise coordination, their formation displaying both discipline and power. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying. Captain, his sensor operator reported, the human fleet is maintaining communication silence. We cannot intercept their tactical communications. That suggests professional military discipline, Yulneth observed. They are not merely colonists with weapons. This is a trained military force. The observation ship maintained its position, hidden in the shadow of an asteroid. Its mission was to gather intelligence on human capabilities without revealing Zephyrian presence. What they were witnessing would change how every species in the galaxy viewed humanity. The humans are moving faster than our projections indicated, the sensor operator continued. At their current speed, they will reach the Kepler 442 system in 14 standard days. Yulneth nodded, making notes in his log. Continue monitoring. The Council needs to know everything about this fleet movement. Across the galaxy, the message was spreading. The creatures from the Deathworld were finally showing their true strength, and the implications terrified everyone who heard it. What no one knew was that the most powerful military response in human history was all because of a simple maintenance accident on a lonely mining station. The USS Defiant dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, its sensors immediately sweeping the area for signs of hostile forces. Captain Ryan Hayes stood on the bridge, watching the tactical displays as his crew worked to understand what they were facing. Report, Hayes ordered. Lieutenant Commander Sam Brooks, the navigation officer, looked up from his console with confusion written across his face. At 29 years old, Sam was known for his attention to detail and careful analysis. He had never seen sensor readings like these before. Captain, I'm not detecting any alien ships or debris fields. The system appears to be completely normal, except for the New Frontier station. Hayes frowned. What about energy signatures? Weapon discharges? Anything that would indicate a battle? Nothing, sir. The only unusual reading is that the station's communication array is broadcasting continuously, but everything else looks normal. Dr. Maria Santos, the fleet medical officer, moved to stand beside Hayes. At 38 years old, she had served on dozens of missions and had seen the aftermath of many battles. She had prepared her medical teams for mass casualties, expecting to find wounded survivors from the alien attack. Captain, if there was a battle, where are the signs of damage? She asked. I'm not seeing any hull breaches, debris, or distress beacons from escape pods. Hayes was beginning to feel uneasy. Admiral Sullivan had mobilized the entire fleet based on reports of an ongoing alien attack, but the sensor readings didn't match the emergency signal they had received. Communications. Are you still receiving the distress signal from New Frontier? Yes, sir, replied the communications officer. Same message repeating on loop. Under heavy assault, casualties mounting, requesting immediate military assistance. Visual scans show the station is intact? Completely intact, Captain. All modules are connected, power systems are functioning, and I'm detecting normal life support readings. Hayes made a decision. Sergeant Parker, prepare a boarding party. We're going to investigate the station directly. Sergeant Nick Parker was 26 years old and had served in combat zones throughout human space. He was a Marine squad leader who had seen real battles, and he knew what the aftermath of an alien attack should look like. As he prepared his team for the boarding operation, he felt increasingly puzzled by the situation. Gear up for hostile contact, he told his Marines, but stay alert. Something doesn't add up here. The Marine shuttle left the Defiant and approached New Frontier Station slowly, scanning for any signs of damage or alien technology. Parker watched through the viewport as the station grew larger, looking completely normal and peaceful. Control. This is boarding team Alpha, Parker reported. Station appears undamaged from the outside. No signs of battle damage or foreign technology. Copy that, Alpha. Proceed with caution. The shuttle docked with the station's main airlock. Parker and his team checked their weapons one final time before entering. They expected to find bodies, damaged equipment, and signs of a desperate fight. Instead, they found something completely unexpected. Jake Morrison was floating in the corridor outside the communications section, still covered in soot from his repair work. When he saw armed Marines entering the station, his face lit up with surprise and confusion. Hey there, Jake said cheerfully. Are you guys here for the supply run? You're about 3 weeks early. Parker stared at him in disbelief. Sir? You injured? Are there any alien hostiles on this station? Aliens? Jake looked even more confused. What aliens? And why are you carrying all those weapons? Is something wrong? Before Parker could answer, Lisa Grant appeared around the corner. The station commander took one look at the heavily armed Marines and immediately understood that something terrible had happened. Sergeant, why is there a military boarding party on my station? She asked. And why do you look like you're expecting a war? Ma'am, we received your distress signal reporting an alien attack. The entire Terran Defense Fleet is en route to assist you. Lisa's face went completely white. The entire fleet? How many ships? 847 vessels, ma'am. The largest military mobilization in human history. Lisa had to grab the wall to steady herself. She looked at Jake, who was beginning to understand that his repair job had somehow caused a massive problem. Oh no, Jake whispered. The communication array. The distress signal. Ben Carter arrived, carrying his engineering toolkit and looking exhausted from hours of trying to fix the malfunctioning system. When he saw the Marines, he immediately understood what had happened. Commander Grant, please tell me we managed to cancel that automatic distress signal. he said. "We've been trying for hours, Ben. The system is locked in emergency mode." Parker activated his radio. "Control, this is Alpha Team. The station is secure. No signs of alien activity. Repeat, no alien hostiles detected." On the bridge of the Defiant, Captain Hayes received the report with a mixture of relief and growing concern. "Sergeant, are you telling me there was no alien attack?" "That's correct, sir. The station crew appears to be fine. They seemed surprised to see us." Hayes looked at his senior officers, all of whom were staring at him with the same expression of dawning horror. If there had been no alien attack, then why had they mobilized the entire fleet? Dr. Santos prepared to interview the station crew. "I want to know exactly what happened here." "Yes, sir." Hayes activated the fleet communication system. "All ships, this is Defiant. Stand down from combat alert. The situation may not be what we expected." Within minutes, Dr. Santos was on the station interviewing Lisa Grant, while engineers worked to understand the communication malfunction. The truth emerged quickly and was more embarrassing than anyone could have imagined. "So you're telling me," Dr. Santos said slowly, "that your technician was performing routine maintenance. There was a power surge, and the system automatically generated a distress signal claiming you were under alien attack?" "That's exactly what happened," Lisa confirmed. "We've been trying to shut it down for hours, but the emergency protocols won't let us override the system." "And this signal has been broadcasting for how long?" "About 8 hours now." Dr. Santos felt sick to her stomach. 8 hours was more than enough time for the signal to reach Earth and trigger a full military response. She activated her communicator. "Captain Hayes, you need to hear this immediately." When Hayes heard the full story, he sat down heavily in his command chair. The implications were staggering. Humanity had just revealed its entire military capability to anyone monitoring the situation, all because of a maintenance accident. "Communications. Get me Admiral Sullivan immediately," Hayes ordered, "and patch me through to all fleet commanders. They need to know what really happened here." The call to Admiral Sullivan was one of the most difficult conversations Hayes had ever had. He had to explain that the largest military mobilization in human history had been triggered by a technician's mistake. "Admiral, there was no alien attack. The distress signal was generated by a malfunctioning communication system. The station crew is completely safe." There was a long silence on the other end of the communication. When Sullivan finally spoke, her voice was carefully controlled. "Captain, are you telling me that 847 warships are currently en route to rescue a mining station from a computer glitch?" "Yes, ma'am. That appears to be the situation." Another long pause. "And this malfunction has been broadcasting on military emergency frequencies for 8 hours?" "Correct, Admiral." Hayes could almost hear Admiral Sullivan calculating the implications. Every alien species with long-range sensors would have detected the massive fleet movement. The entire galaxy now knew that humanity could mobilize its entire military force in a matter of hours. "Captain, maintain position at the station until the fleet arrives. We need to figure out how to handle this situation." "Understood, Admiral." As Hayes ended the call, he looked out at the peaceful mining station floating in space. Jake Morrison's simple repair job had just changed the course of galactic history, and none of them had any idea what would happen next. The largest military fleet in human history was still racing toward them, and there was no way to call it back. Somewhere in the depths of space, alien observers were watching and drawing their own conclusions about humanity's sudden show of strength. Jake Morrison, still covered in soot and completely unaware of the chaos he had caused, was helping Ben. Carter finally shut down the malfunctioning communication array. The distress signal finally stopped broadcasting, but the damage was already done. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. Ambassador Zoe Mitchell was having breakfast in her office on Earth when the emergency message arrived. At 44 years old, she had spent 20 years building relationships with the few alien species that humanity had made contact with. Most of these contacts had been brief and cautious, with both sides carefully avoiding anything that might be seen as threatening. "Ambassador," her assistant called through the intercom, "you have urgent messages from 17 different alien governments. They're all marked as highest priority." Zoe nearly choked on her coffee. In her entire career, she had never received urgent messages from more than one alien species at a time. 17 simultaneous contacts was unprecedented. "Put them through to my secure terminal," she said, moving quickly to her desk. The first message was from the Milani Trade Federation. The usually formal diplomatic language was replaced by something that seemed almost panicked. "Honored Ambassador Mitchell, the Milani Federation urgently requests immediate diplomatic contact regarding recent human military movements. We wish to discuss enhanced trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. Please respond at your earliest convenience." Zoe stared at the message in confusion. The Milani had never shown interest in defense pacts before. They were peaceful traders who avoided military entanglements. She opened the second message, this one from the Altarian Republic. "Ambassador Mitchell, the Altarian Republic formally requests clarification of human territorial expansion plans. We wish to establish clear boundaries to avoid any misunderstandings. That might lead to conflict." The third message was from the Kratheri Empire, and it made Zoe's blood run cold. The Kratheri were known for their aggressive expansion and military strength. They had never communicated with humanity except to warn them away from certain star systems. "Human Ambassador, the Kratheri Empire acknowledges the impressive display of human military capability. We propose immediate negotiations for non-aggression. Treaties and territorial agreements. The Empire has no desire for conflict with your species." Zoe read the message 3 times, trying to understand what had happened. The Kratheri were asking for non-aggression treaties? They had never shown anything but hostility toward humanity before. She activated her secure communication line to the military command center. "This is Ambassador Mitchell. I need to speak with someone about recent fleet movements. I'm receiving very strange messages from multiple alien governments. Ambassador, this is General Troy Campbell. I think we need to talk." General Campbell was 51 years old and had served as Earth's senior military strategist for the past decade. He was known for his careful planning and his ability to think several steps ahead of potential enemies. Today, he looked exhausted and worried. "General, what exactly happened with our fleet? The aliens seem to think we've done something that impressed them." Campbell rubbed his forehead. "Ambassador, we accidentally mobilized our entire military force. 847 ships, including every dreadnought and battlecruiser we have. The largest fleet movement in human history. Why would you do that?" "Because we thought one of our colonies was under alien attack. It turned out to be a false alarm caused by a communication malfunction." Zoe sat down heavily. "You're telling me that every alien species in the galaxy just watched us mobilize our entire military, and it was all a mistake?" "That's exactly what I'm telling you. And now they're all reacting to what they think was a demonstration of human military power." Zoe looked at the messages still streaming in on her terminal. More alien governments were making contact every few minutes, all with similar themes of respect, fear, and desire for peaceful relations. "General, how big was this fleet movement? What exactly did they see?" Campbell pulled up a tactical display. "Every major warship we have, moving in perfect formation toward our outer colonies. From an outside perspective, it would look like we were preparing for the largest military campaign in galactic history." Dr. Elena Rodriguez entered the ambassador's office, carrying several data tablets and looking concerned. At 36 years old, she was humanity's leading expert on alien psychology and behavior. Her job was to help predict how different species would react to human actions. Ambassador, I've been analyzing the alien responses to our fleet movement. The psychological impact is enormous. Explain, Zoe said. Most alien species have small, defensive military forces. The idea of mobilizing hundreds of warships simultaneously is completely foreign to them. They're interpreting our response as evidence that humans are far more militarily capable than they previously believed. Campbell nodded. The intelligence. Reports support Dr. Rodriguez's analysis. Several species have canceled planned military operations and are pulling back their forces from human space. Which species? Zoe asked. The Crothery had been planning to test our defenses in the outer colonies. Those plans have been completely abandoned. The Void Singers have begun monitoring our communications for the first time in decades. Even the Zephyrians, who we barely knew existed, have started sending diplomatic overtures. Dr. Rodriguez consulted her tablets. The psychological effect is cascading through the galactic community. Species that had dismissed humanity as a minor power are now treating us as a major military force. Our perceived threat level has increased by over 300%. Zoe tried to process this information. So our accident has made us appear more dangerous than we actually are? Much more dangerous, Dr. Rodriguez confirmed. Most species maintain small fleets for local defense. The idea that we can mobilize nearly 1,000 warships suggests we have military resources far beyond what anyone expected. But it's not true, Zoe protested. That fleet represents almost everything we have. The aliens don't know that, Campbell said. From their perspective, if we can casually deploy such a massive force to protect a single mining station, we must have even larger reserves held back from major conflicts. Zoe's terminal chimed with another incoming message. This one was from a species she had never heard of before. Ambassador Mitchell, the hegemony of distant stars, formally requests permission to establish diplomatic relations with humanity. We are impressed by your species' rapid response capabilities and wish to discuss mutual cooperation agreements. How? Many species are making contact now? Zoe asked her assistant. 37 and counting. Ambassador. We're receiving new messages every few minutes. Dr. Rodriguez looked at her analysis. Ambassador, this is unprecedented in galactic history. No species has ever received this many simultaneous diplomatic contacts. Usually, alien governments are very slow to change their opinions about other species. What changed their minds so quickly? Fear and respect, Campbell answered. They've realized that humanity can project military power across vast distances very quickly. That makes us either a valuable ally or a dangerous enemy, but never again a species they can ignore. Zoe looked at the flood of messages on her screen. Some were offering trade agreements, others proposed military alliances, and a few were requests for assistance with regional conflicts. Every alien government in the galaxy seemed to want humanity's attention. General, what's the status of our fleet now? Still deployed and heading toward the Kepler 442 system. Admiral Sullivan is trying to figure out how to handle the situation without making us look weak or incompetent. Can we recall them quietly? Not without every alien observer noticing. The fleet movement is too large to hide. Any change in our deployment will be seen as either a sign of weakness or preparation for an even larger operation. Dr. Rodriguez added her thoughts. Ambassador, I recommend we maintain the fleet deployment for now. If we recall the ships immediately, it might make us appear indecisive or suggest that the original threat was not real. But the original threat wasn't real, Zoe pointed out. The aliens don't know that. From their perspective, we responded to a threat with overwhelming force, which suggests both military capability and strategic thinking. Zoe realized the impossible position they were in. The accident had created a reputation for military strength. that humanity couldn't maintain, but they also couldn't afford to lose. The entire balance of galactic politics had shifted based on a maintenance worker's mistake. "What do you recommend we do?" Campbell and Dr. Rodriguez exchanged glances. "We play along," Campbell said. "We maintain the appearance of strength while being very careful not to provoke anyone into testing that strength. The fleet deployment has bought us respect and fear," Dr. Rodriguez added. "Those are valuable diplomatic tools, even if they're based on a misunderstanding." Zoe's terminal chimed again with more diplomatic messages. The Zephyrian Collective was offering to share advanced technology in exchange for non-aggression agreements. The Melani were proposing exclusive trading rights. The Crotheri were asking for help with a territorial dispute they had been fighting for decades. "Ambassador," her assistant called, "I'm also receiving requests from 43 news organizations across 17 different species. They all want interviews about humanity's military strategy." Zoe looked at the mountain of diplomatic opportunities that had appeared overnight, all because Jake Morrison had made a mistake while fixing a communication. Array, the irony was not lost on her. President Helen Davis stood at the podium in the United Nations Assembly Hall, looking out at the representatives of every nation on Earth. At 52 years old, she had led humanity through economic crises and colonial disputes, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. In her hands was a speech that would define humanity's place in the galaxy for generations to come. "My fellow humans," she began, "3 days ago, we made contact with hostile alien forces threatening one of our colonies. Today, I can report that the threat has been neutralized and our people are safe." The audience erupted in applause, unaware that the hostile alien forces had been a malfunctioning communication system. President Davis had spent 2 sleepless days with her advisors, crafting a story that would maintain humanity's new reputation without technically lying. "The rapid response of our defense forces has demonstrated to the galactic community that humanity stands ready to protect its people and its interests. As a result, we have received diplomatic overtures from 47 alien governments, all seeking peaceful relations with our species." In the back of the hall, Ambassador Zoe Mitchell watched nervously. She had helped write the speech carefully, choosing words that would support their new position without making claims they couldn't back up. The truth was too embarrassing and too dangerous to reveal. Behind the scenes, Captain Luke Anderson was implementing the new military strategy. At 41 years old, he had been chosen to command humanity's first permanent deep space patrol force. His job was to maintain the impression of military strength while actually learning what they were supposed to be strong against. "Captain Anderson to Fleet Command," he reported from the bridge of his new flagship, the USS Vigilant. "Patrol Group Alpha is in position at the outer perimeter. All alien vessels are maintaining respectful distances." The patrol force consisted of 12 ships, a tiny fraction of the massive fleet that had responded to Jake Morrison's accident. But positioned strategically throughout human space, they created the impression of a vast and vigilant military presence. Chief Analyst Amy Cooper worked frantically in the Intelligence Center on Luna Command, trying to make sense of the galaxy they had accidentally become important in. At 34 years old, she was responsible for understanding the dozens of alien species that had suddenly started paying attention to humanity. "The changes in galactic behavior patterns are remarkable," she reported to General Campbell. "Interstellar. Crime rates have dropped 30% in regions where our patrol ships have been detected. Several aggressive species have abandoned planned territorial expansions." "Are you saying our accidental show of force is actually making the galaxy more peaceful?" Campbell asked. "That's exactly what I'm saying, General. The Crotheri haven't attacked anyone in 3 weeks. The Void Singers are mediating territorial disputes instead of ignoring them. Everyone is being much more careful about their actions. The effects were spreading beyond military matters. On Earth, Dr. Elena Rodriguez was analyzing reports from human traders and diplomats who had suddenly found alien governments much more interested in their proposals. The economic implications are staggering, she told Ambassador Mitchell during their daily briefing. Trade offers have increased by 400%. Several species are offering technology exchanges they had previously refused to consider. What kind of technology? Mitchell asked. Advanced sensors, improved faster-than-light communication, medical equipment. The Melani are even offering to share their agricultural techniques, which could solve food shortages on our outer colonies. Meanwhile, Jake Morrison was still working on New Frontier Station, completely unaware that his repair job had changed galactic history. Lisa Grant had decided not to tell him the full truth, believing it would be too much pressure for anyone to handle. Jake, you did good work fixing that communication array, she told him as he finished installing the upgraded components that Ben Carter had designed. The new system should prevent any future malfunctions. Thanks, Commander. I still don't understand why all those military ships showed up, though. That seemed like a lot of firepower for a routine maintenance check. Sometimes the military likes to test their response times, Lisa said diplomatically. Don't worry about it. Ben Carter had been promoted to head a new department called Emergency Systems Engineering, though the real purpose was to prevent any more accidental galactic incidents. His team was reviewing every automatic system on every human station and ship, making sure no other maintenance problems could trigger unintended diplomatic crisis. Back on Earth, President Davis was meeting with the Galactic Council for the first time via long-range communication. The council chamber appeared on her screen, showing representatives from 12 major alien species. All of them looked at her with a mixture of respect and caution that had never existed before. President Davis, said the Zephyrian representative, the Galactic Council formally welcomes humanity as a major power. We hope this marks the beginning of a new era of cooperation and peace. Thank you, Davis replied carefully. Humanity has always been committed to peaceful relations with all species, while maintaining the ability to protect our people when necessary. The subtle threat in her words was intentional. The aliens' respect was based on fear of human military capability, and she needed to maintain that impression while actually promoting peace. Admiral Sullivan was coordinating the new permanent fleet deployment from Luna Command. The ships that had originally responded to the false emergency were now spread across human space in a pattern designed to maximize their visibility to alien observers. Admiral, reported Captain Hayes from the USS Defiant, we're receiving curious but respectful communications from alien vessels throughout the sector. They're maintaining proper distances and following all protocols. Good. Continue standard patrols and maintain professional behavior. We want to be seen as strong but not aggressive. The strategy was working better than anyone had expected. The accident had created a reputation that was actually making the galaxy safer and more cooperative. But it also created a constant pressure to live up to expectations they couldn't really meet. Amy Cooper's latest intelligence report showed the long-term effects of the incident. General, the Krathari Empire has officially abandoned 12 planned territorial conquests. The hegemony of distant stars is requesting human mediation in their border dispute with the Altarian Republic. 3 minor species have asked for protection against pirates. Are we actually capable of providing that protection? Campbell asked. Not really, sir, but they don't know that. Our reputation is doing the work for us, Dr. Rodriguez added her analysis. The psychological impact continues to spread. Species that have never interacted with humans are now including us in their strategic planning. We've become a factor in galactic politics without actually having to do anything. President Davis concluded her address to the nation with words that would be remembered throughout human history. Today, humanity takes its place among the great civilizations of the galaxy. We do so not through conquest or aggression, but through strength, determination, and the courage to protect what we hold dear. The audience stood and applauded, believing they were celebrating humanity's first victory in interstellar warfare. In reality, they were celebrating the most successful accident in human history. On New Frontier Station, Jake Morrison finished his shift and went to get dinner, still wondering why everyone had been acting so strangely lately. He would never know that his simple repair job had made humanity one of the most feared and respected species in the galaxy. The malfunction had ended, but its consequences would echo through the stars for generations. Humanity had stumbled into galactic prominence through pure accident, and they were determined to make the best of it. The galaxy had learned to respect the creatures from the Deathworld called Earth, and for the first time in galactic history, that respect was making everyone safer. Sometimes the best diplomacy was not knowing your own strength and making sure your enemies didn't know you didn't know it either. Jake Morrison's maintenance accident had become humanity's greatest diplomatic victory, and the secret would remain, safely hidden in the files of a few government officials who understood that some truths were too dangerous to tell. The New Frontier Station continued its peaceful orbit, a symbol of human unpredictability and the power of unintended consequences. In a galaxy that would never look at humanity the same way again.